You know that feeling? When something's been whispered about for so long and then, bam, it's actually real.
Oh, yeah.
That's exactly where we are today with the Oblivion remake. Or remaster, we'll get into that.
Right. The buzz has been building, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Especially with all those leaks popping up recently.
Totally. Mortismal Gaming really nailed it, saying, an official announcement felt like it had to be coming soon.
And it did. Just like that. Ubisoft TV confirmed it in their news roundup. It actually dropped only, 4 hours after Mortismal's video?
Wow. Okay. Talk about timing.
Yeah. So for this deep dive, we're basically going to stitch those two perspectives together. You've got the sort of informed guesswork from just before.
Right. The anticipation.
Exactly. And then the actual facts, or what we know so far, from after the announcement. The idea is to give everyone a clear sense of what's potentially coming with this Return to Sarah deal.
Okay, let's jump in. So, the headline news, confirmed by Ubisoft TV, Oblivion Remaster is official. It's happening. And like we said, Mortismal Gaming pretty much called it right before the news broke. But here's where it gets kind of wild.
Yeah.
Ubisoft TV flagged this interaction someone had, an X-user, I think.
With Xbox support.
Right? And support apparently let slip a release date, April 21st, 2025. Which is, it's this week.
I know. It seems almost unbelievable, doesn't it? Such a short fuse.
I mean, really.
Right.
From leak to official word to maybe playing it practically now.
Yeah.
That's quite something. What do you make of that speed?
Well, it could be a strategy, right? Capitalize on the hype immediately. No long, drawn-out marketing campaign.
Just drop it while it's hot.
Kind of, yeah. It might also suggest they're, pretty confident the game's ready to go. No need to wait.
Okay, so confidence is high? Maybe.
Yeah.
But the big question, the one Mortismal was chewing on, and Ubisoft TV echoed, what is it exactly?
Remaster or full remake?
Yeah. Is it just shinier graphics, or are we talking a ground-up rebuild? Mortismal mentioned those Unreal Engine 5 rumors.
Right, the UE5 speculation. That'd point towards a proper remake. Better graphics feel like a given, obviously.
You'd hope so, after all this time.
But Mortismal raised a really key point. What about the actual gameplay?
Yeah.
The core systems?
He mentioned the leveling, didn't he? Which, let's be honest, was a bit notorious in the original.
It was definitely divisive. So if they do change something like the leveling, what does that mean for the rest of the game? It's all interconnected.
That's the tightrope, isn't it? How much do you change?
Exactly. A remake gives you the chance to, maybe smooth out some of those older mechanics for a modern audience. But, like Mortismal warned, you risk annoying the people who loved the original because of its quirks, not despite them.
You sand off the rough edges, but maybe you sand off some of the charm, too.
Precisely. Finding that balance, it's going to be crucial. If they mess with the leveling, they have to be super careful about how it impacts, character building and freedom.
Yeah, because like Mortismal said, part of why people still love Oblivion is that it was a bit of a, quote, janky, weird mess.
He really captured that feeling, didn't he?
He did. And that ties into something else he talked about. The voices.
Ah, yes. The voice acting.
Wes Johnson, obviously a legend, but also not that many actors for so many characters.
Right, which led to those radiant conversations where you'd have the same voice talking back and forth to itself.
Which was hilarious, in a way. So Ubisoft TV mentioned that it looks like all the original DLC is included, which is great.
Standard practice, really, but good to hear.
Yeah. But it makes you wonder about the audio. If they're putting all this effort into visuals, potentially rebuilding systems, what about the sound? The voices.
That's a really interesting dilemma. Do you re-record everything with more actors? Make it sound more, polished?
Or do you keep the original recordings, warts and all, for the nostalgia factor?
It's tough. Newcomers might prefer updated audio, maybe feel more immersed. But veterans, that original voice acting is so iconic, even the slightly weird parts.
It's part of the game's identity, almost.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
So how much of that original, slightly oddball charm do they want to keep versus, modernizing it?
Speaking of modernizing, access and cost. Ubisoft TV's report suggests all the DLCs in the package. Good.
Yeah.
Expected.
Yep.
But Mortismal had some interesting thoughts on the price tag. He was hoping for, maybe $50?
Yeah.
Since it's an older game coming back.
Yeah, sort of a nod to its age.
But he also figured, probably more realistically, it'll be $70. Especially if it hits Game Pass day one, which feels almost certain.
That seems likely, doesn't it? The standard AAA price point, even for Remake or Master, especially with that Game Pass inclusion.
It's the pattern now. And he briefly mentioned pre-orders, which, yeah, of course there'll be pre-orders. But that dynamic, buying it outright versus grabbing it on Game Pass, how did that change things?
Oh, massively. Game Pass lowers the barrier to entry hugely. Suddenly, tons more people might try it out who wouldn't have paid $70 up front.
Right. More eyeballs on it.
But for those thinking about buying it, that $70 price needs to feel justified. They'll be looking really closely at the value, the included content, how much has actually been improved.
Makes sense. Now, there was a part in Mortismal's video that really, it was quite personal.
About his own history with the game.
Yeah. He talked about playing Oblivion constantly when he was homeless as a teenager, around 15.
Wow.
He said it wasn't necessarily like a happy memory of that time, but the game itself was this anchor, something constant.
That's powerful.
It really is. And for him, this remake or remaster, it's not just revisiting an old favorite. It's a chance to maybe make new memories with it. Positive ones this time around.
A different chapter.
Exactly. And he hopes this new version lets other people find that kind of magic he found, maybe, in an easier, more accessible way now.
It just shows how much games can mean to people, doesn't it? Beyond just entertainment. They can be companions, escapes.
Comfort, yeah. Getting you through tough times. That connection is real.
Absolutely. Revisiting something that formative but with a fresh coat of paint, it speaks volumes about those virtual bonds we form.
Definitely. But even with that deep personal tie, he was really clear.
About the review.
Yeah. He's determined to review it objectively. He said he's putting the nostalgia aside.
Which is hard to do.
Has to be. He's focusing on, does it capture the spirit? Does it make the right updates? How does it actually run? Is the price fair for what you get? DLC included?
The core review questions. Performance, value, faithfulness versus improvement.
Pretty much. Oh, and he also joked he's basically obligated to make a horse armor joke somewhere in the review.
Well, you have to, don't you? It's practically law with Oblivion.
Feels like it. So, okay, let's wrap this up. The key takeaways from our deep dive.
We have official confirmation. Oblivion is coming back. That's the big news from UAG and ATV, landing right after Mortismal sensed it was imminent.
Right. And this potential super fast release, maybe even this week. That's a bit of a curveball.
Definitely unexpected. Then there's the big unknown. Is it a simple remaster or a full-on Unreal Engine remake?
And how do they handle the changes? Especially gameplay stuff like leveling, while still keeping that unique Oblivion feel, that whole janky charm.
It's the core challenge. Modernize, but don't sanitize too much.
Looks like all the DLC is in, which is good. Price? Probably $70. But Game Pass will be huge for access.
Yep. So you, listening, should now have a pretty good handle on where things stand with this release.
You know the background, the big questions everyone's asking, the hopes, the potential worries.
The whole mix of excitement and maybe slight apprehension.
Exactly. So here's something to chew on, building off that personal connection Mortismal shared. As you think about going back to Saradell, or maybe visiting for the first time, what memories or maybe expectations are you bringing with you? And how might this new version let you forge completely different memories, totally separate from the original?
That's a good one. Definitely something to think about.
It is. Anyway, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.